No, we have a small group today, so I think we can go ahead and get started. We can start off with some introductions. I'll start since I'm already speaking. My name is Holly Brennan. I'm a graduate recruitment counselor for Brown's master's programs at the Division of Master's and Professional Programs. David and Carrie, if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm David Lindstrom. I'm a professor in sociology and in population studies. I do research on international migration and survey research. I teach courses in statistics, and I'm the director of the program.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carrie Spearin. I'm the Associate Director of the program, really focused on meeting with all of you and advising and teaching courses in advanced research methods like focus groups, intensive interviewing, survey research, and market research.
Awesome. Thank you both. We're going to get started off with what we're going to be covering today in our agenda. Carrie and David are going to share some really lovely insights into the program structure and some curriculum highlights. I'll talk a little bit more about master-specific support and resources here through the Center for Master Students Excellence. By nature of attending this session, you will be getting an application fee waiver, so no extra step is needed except to actually formally start your application. We will be answering questions, informally throughout the session, live, especially if it'll benefit the group, but we always recommend to submit those questions through the Q&A function at the bottom of your toolbar, as the chat is going to be disabled. Other than just some maybe quick links that might be posted between me and Casey in the chat, but otherwise you can use the Q&A function. So yeah, we can go ahead and get started.
Very good. So why don't we, okay. This program is a 2-semester program. There is no thesis requirement. Students take 4 courses in the fall semester, 4 courses in the spring semester. In some cases, we do allow students to start in the second semester and continue in the following fall, but those would be rare exceptions. But that option is available to students with the appropriate course backgrounds or preparation. What sets this program apart from other comparable programs is that the curriculum was originally designed for our doctoral training program and our advanced undergraduate training. None of the courses that our students take are standalone courses for the master's program alone, and that means that students in this program are fully integrated into our PhD program in sociology. So students are taking courses alongside doctoral students in sociology, advanced undergraduates who specialize in research methods and statistics, and in some cases students from other programs as well. It's a STEM designated program, so that's important in particular for international students who are interested in OPT opportunities afterwards. Because the courses are designed for our PhD students, the focus is on how to work with a variety of different kinds of data, quantitative, qualitative data from the internet, large data sources, administrative data, census, survey data, etc. And how to choose the appropriate set of methods for the analysis of these data, how to make sense out of results, interpret findings, and present them to an audience. So we're very much about hands-on data analysis, interpretation, presentation, because that's what we're training our graduate students, our PhD students, to be as researchers who can make sense of the world for different publics. Our courses are taught by our regular faculty. These are faculty who are research active, faculty many of whom are engaged in a variety of different kinds of data collection projects, both domestically and internationally. Our classes tend to be relatively small. They range from anywhere from 6 to 8 to 26 to 28, in that range. Again, your students are in the classroom, mostly with doctoral students. Now, it's important for me, and I'll get to this later on, to emphasize that introductory statistics, undergraduate introductory statistics provides sufficient preparation for this program. So we have students coming into the program with a range of different backgrounds. And if you've done well in undergraduate statistics, introductory statistics, you'll do well in this program. You'll be successful. In addition to the regular courses that we offer, students can take a course outside of the department. That just provides students a broader range of courses to choose from. And students can choose to do an optional research internship. And those internships can be on a faculty research project. It could be a team, a small team group project. And in some instances, if students are eligible, it could be an off-campus internship as well. So let's move to the next slide, please. And just again, to repeat myself a little, is that the real goal of this program is for students to be comfortable in working with a range of different data types, provide preparation on how to collect data, and that can come in the form of survey data, could come in the form of web scraping, could come in the form of intensive, in-depth interviewing, or in the form of making sense out of focus group data. So how to collect data, how to analyze that data, and most importantly, how to find the story embedded within the data and tell that story to a client. And so it's really about taking students, looking at data from the very beginning to the very end, making sense of the world as it comes to us in the form of data for different publics. So let's move to the next slide. Okay. The core of our training is 2 semesters of advanced statistics. These are 2 courses that are required for all of our doctoral students. And again, I want to emphasize, if with just introductory statistics, you have sufficient preparation to do very well in both of these courses. So these are both required courses. In some rare instances, we'll have students who come with advanced background in statistics, and they can, we waive these requirements for those students, but that's not that common. So these are the backbone of the program, and then we have lots of different alternatives and options beyond these 2 courses. So let's look at some of those options and alternatives. So next slide, please. So in a typical semester, what we'll have available, what's available to students is usually somewhere between in the range of 7 or 8 to 12, 13 courses that are taught within the Department of Sociology and now within the Population Studies and Training Center. Just recently, in basically this current year, the program has moved from sociology to the Population Studies and Training Center. That move has opened up all kinds of additional training opportunities for students in the program. The Population Studies and Training Center, or PSTC that we call it, is a training research center in social demography. It's an interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary research institution that brings together faculty and students from economics, sociology, anthropology, and public health. In addition to being a center for research, we also offer a whole range of different kinds of mini courses, non-credit courses that could be a morning, a day, a week or 2 weeks in some instances, that are focused on the application of different specialized research methods. And all of those training opportunities are available to our master students, as well as we have a whole series of seminars going on, or colloquia, in which members of the PSTC, faculty members, as well as researchers from outside of Brown, come to present research in progress. And so there's lots of opportunities here for students to expose themselves to a variety of different research methods, as well as to get intensive training in particular types of methods. Now, in any given semester, our courses generally fall into three broad groupings: advanced statistics, spatial analysis, and qualitative mixed data methods. The qualitative methods cover things like ethnography, focus groups, computational sociology, which is basically focused on big data and web scraping, content analysis. We have advanced statistics beyond. There are two required courses. So we have courses in hierarchical models, courses in causal analysis, courses in survival analysis, demographic techniques, and then the third broad area in which we have a particularly strong training program that I think really distinguishes us from, again, from many of these comparable programs, is that we have a very strong training program in spatial analysis. And that program begins with courses in GIS, basically how to work with spatial geocoded data, primarily for descriptive purposes, generating maps and so forth. And then it moves on to more sophisticated statistical methods for modeling data that has a spatial component to it. And so in any given year, we have probably about 3 to 4 courses in spatial analysis available to students. Okay. Now, again, what I want to emphasize is that what separates this program from other programs is that these are all courses that are designed for training doctoral students in research methods and data analysis. And essentially what we're doing in this program is we're condensing into 2 semesters the kind of training that we provide doctoral students over a period of 3 years. So there's no fluff in this program. We're assuming that students entering the program have some idea how to think about problems from a social science perspective. So our focus is really on providing students with breadth and depth in their methodological toolkit. Okay, let's move to the next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, one of the options we have available to our students is faculty-directed research practicum that can come in a variety of forms. It can come, as I mentioned, as working on a faculty research project. It could be a team of students working, a team of 2 to 3 students working together on a project, or it could come in the form of outside internships. Generally, we recommend that students come and take 8 courses rather than 7 courses and the research practicum. The research practicum involves students registering for a course under the direction of a faculty member who provides mentoring and supervision of the research experience. For some students, this is a good idea, particularly if they can align themselves, connect themselves with the right research experience. But our experience has been that for most students, getting that 8th course is probably a better use of their time. And many of our students will do some type of internship or research experience and simply not do it for credit, but take that 8th course. So there's opportunities to engage in research without having to register for credit. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Now, what we have available to students are these optional tracks. And the tracks are qualitative analysis, spatial analysis, and demographic analysis. And students who opt to take a track, the track designation shows up on their transcript. So the transcript will indicate Master's in Social Data Analytics with a track specialization in qualitative analysis or spatial analysis or demographic analysis. What the track allows students to do is to develop a specialization in a particular set of research methods and signal that specialization on their transcript. So the tracks are good for students who want to come out of this program and identify themselves professionally as having a particular type of expertise. So for instance, you're really interested in spatial analysis and you want to come out of this experience locating a job as someone who does spatial analysis, then this is a good option for you. It's an opportunity, again, to signal to the job market that, hey, not only do I have a master's degree in data analytics, but I have a particular expertise in the application of methods of spatial analysis for geocoded data. Um, or we'll have students who are really interested in qualitative research methods, but they also want to have a strong background in the analysis and quantitative methods. And so they can opt for the qualitative analysis. You can say, hey, I can do statistics. I can do statistics really well, but I'm also very comfortable and in fact have a particular expertise in analysis of qualitative forms of data. So these are options available to students. You don't have to do it. What we generally recommend students to do is to come out with a broad set of experiences with different kinds of methods. And in fact, what we've learned from our graduates who are now working in industry is what they tell us is that what separates them from their peers in the workplace is that they have strong training and competencies in advanced statistical analysis, but they also know how to work with qualitative data. So that kind of flexibility in terms of being able to work with a range of different kinds of data types, as well as being, better trained than their peers in advanced statistical methods is what really provides them that a leg up over their peers in the workplace. And that's been a pretty consistent story that we get from students who've been out working in industry for a while. Okay, next. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Carrie now.
So beyond all of your academic classwork, we really get our cohort of students together often, not only to talk about the work of their classes and to talk about professional development, but also just to build community and really feel like you're in this together. So within our program, as David mentioned, our students are fully integrated into the Population Studies and Training Center. What that actually means is that you have a building to go to, that you are all together. It's a really fantastic space. It's open. There are places for you to sit, places for you to study, places for you to chat, bring your lunch, have dinner. All of that stuff is you have the space available to you. It also is a place in which there are numerous talks, at least one a week, where you can meet with visiting faculty coming in. There are PhD students from economics, sociology, anthropology, public health, different disciplines that are also working in the building that you can mingle with and chat with, as well as postdocs. And there are just faculty from all different places. The Population Studies and Training Center is an interdisciplinary center, and we really truly believe in that and immersing you all into that world as well. Next slide, please. So beyond the PSDC, which is really the hub for you all, we are also affiliated with many other different interdisciplinary centers across campus. The spatial structures in the social sciences, which we call S4, is the one that you'll probably mostly be involved in, because that's where our courses on the that use GIS are centered. And so many of our faculty are also affiliated with the S4 Center. And you, if you're taking courses in GIS training, would be kind of hanging out in that particular space as well. We also have the Institute at Brown for Environment and Society, which, if you are interested in anything to do with climate studies or the environment, there are methodology courses, and many of our faculty teach those courses in that department. So that's another place in which you can find connection if that is an interest of yours, as well as numerous talks and other visiting faculty that come in, and you can engage with them as well. The Annenberg Institute and the Swearer Center are two additional centers at Brown where many of our faculty are also affiliated. The Annenberg Institute is centered on educational inequality, and the Swearer Center is working with nonprofits in the Rhode Island and greater Rhode Island area. So if you have any interest in either of those two areas, again, really fantastic interdisciplinary places for you to mingle, hang out, absorb what's going on, and kind of really boost your own individual interests. We also have multiple opportunities for our students to get together at various times. We have students come in the fall and in the spring to the farm and engage and have dinner and a traditional Rhode Island clam boil. We also have mid-semester lunches just really to get together and make connections, but we also have workshops and professional development workshops that are particular to our master's students and to the other students at the Population Studies and Training Center, which you are welcome to go to. And I also encourage you, and I know that Holly will say this later, I encourage all of our students to engage in what the School of Professional Studies offers. They have paint nights, they have yoga, they have professional development in terms of preparing you for interviews. All of that is really important. So we encourage our students to go to those things, but not just go alone, go as a cohort in a group. Next slide, please. And really, all of that culminates in you moving on from Brown and getting a job. It is a short 9 months that you're at Brown for this program. And so we start right away with talking about what's next, right? And how does this program in social data analytics help you get to that next place that you want to be in? And that's really one of the most important things that we're really thinking about is you come to Brown, you're learning skills. How can we help you better articulate the skills that you're learning to employers in order to land that next position? And our students go into a wide variety of different fields. And I'm sure you've done research, but the more research you do on social data analytics, you'll realize how very important it is across many fields in the workforce today. So we have students that are going into data science or as business and research analysts, but we also have students going into nonprofit program evaluation, marketing, all different types of fields, public policy, educational research. And many of our alumni are actively engaged on our LinkedIn page, where we have this vibrant alumni network where people are sharing information. And when we receive information from our alums, we share it with our students too, so you can make these connections and find out what people are doing. On top of that, every November, which is coming up very quickly, we invite our alum back to talk to our current students about the ways in which they still connect their coursework to their jobs every single day. And that's really one of the most illuminating nights that we have for our students to really see that the skills that they're learning in the classroom really will carry with them, and they will continue to use and develop them as they move beyond Brown. There was something else I was going to say about that, but we'll save it. Next slide, please. Oh, and that's it from me. Oh, that's what I was going to say. And maybe Casey or Holly can drop it into the chat. I would encourage all of you to take a look at our newsletter. So on our website, we have each year's newsletter. We are in the process of putting together the 2026 newsletter. But we highlight our alumni, as well as our current faculty who are really doing or have developed really innovative coursework. So take a look at our latest newsletter. It gives you a really good idea of what our students are doing and what they're capable of doing beyond Brown, and just kind of, give you some ideas about what you may want to think about too. Okay, Holly.
Awesome. Thank you, Carrie. Casey just sent me that newsletter. I linked it into the chat. I can confirm it is a very informative newsletter, but also really exciting to kind of see alumni and what they've done for a few years past the program. So yeah, I would love to kind of pivot towards a little bit more broad as a master's student at Brown, the kind of levels of support and resources that you have. This is our Center for Master's Students Excellence team, otherwise known as our Student Affairs team. Joel and Janae are our Deans of Student Affairs, so anything regarding academic counseling, crisis support, or you just need someone to talk to, these two people would be first people that I would recommend. But beyond that, Colville, Caitlin, Amanda, their team really is our professional development and career services team. They, as Carrie mentioned, offer another kind of layer of support when it comes to planning for your career, identifying career options, doing mock interviews, helping you build your resumes, or also preparing you for the job market if you are perhaps an international student and you don't have a lot of experience working or interviewing in the United States. So beyond what you are getting in your program and within your department, there's another tier kind of a support that we always recommend students, even if you feel like you're getting everything that you need, which often is the case, especially with smaller programs where you really do get those high touch points with your advisors and with a smaller cohort. But um, something really important to notice is that other than the Brown name, graduating from Brown means that you can continue using career services up to 3 years post-graduation. So Colmo, Caitlin, and Amanda are continuing that conversation with you as you're a student here and even post-graduation. Especially since the program is such a short kind of duration, we always recommend really starting off strong on the first day, making those connections and identifying things that you want to work on professionally within your first semester. So they do host individual sessions. They also host workshops where they can be more in a group setting. As Carrie mentioned, maybe if you want to bring other members of your cohort, that would be a great opportunity to do like a group session with our career services team. And then otherwise, and I'm going to go to the next slide here just to kind of spell out some of their basic core functions. And then otherwise, we also have a lot of student programming through our student affairs team. So what that looks like is a lot of cross-departmental fun, low cost, if not free events that are really centered around well-being. So a little bit different than you would normally see with like undergraduate programming. So we know that graduate students are a little older, they're a little bit more mature. They want to be, dignified and separated from undergraduate populations. So luckily at Brown, there are I think over 30 graduate student groups that are approved by the Graduate Student Council. Also, you can create one if that floats your boat. But beyond that, there is a really separate community for master's students here to help them feel belonging on campus, but also really bond with each other and honor the fact that you're not just a student here, even if that is a really important part of your identity and your lifestyle, is that having fun, engaging in social and emotional opportunities is really going to help you as a student as well. So a lot of those events are also often we have a parent student community meetup group. So if you want to be connected with other parents across the master student community, there's a listserv that would connect you with other parents, as well as the graduate student listserv, which is going to be available to you if you do decide to start an application, you're enrolled. And that is basically another just community forum of connecting with services. So Beyond that, our student affairs team also, kind of on a more serious note, can definitely handle cases around crisis support, emergency funding, leaves of absence, God forbid. And yes, Janae has her background in social work, so she is incredibly adept and also sensitive towards student issues. So thankfully, it's been a pretty smooth semester so far, but wanted to just familiarize yourself with the kind of support and resources that you have outside of your department. And yeah, we'll get started on looking at what kind of basic application looks like. So David had mentioned that as far as applicable backgrounds, it's fairly open for this program, except for, just some small prerequisite courses, but the program really does and is open to a variety of different backgrounds. So that's why you're going to see that not on, specific majors that we're trying to target. It's really just somebody who has some background in statistical training and also who has a clear career objective and sees that this program is going to be able to help them achieve those objectives. So what a basic completed application looks like from the start is going to be a copy of all of your unofficial transcripts. So that is only transcripts for degree seeking courses. So if you only took one random class and it doesn't pertain to your degree, we don't need that, just all unofficial transcripts. A personal statement, which there is a prompt that is specific to the program on which you're supposed to talk about your interests, talk about, what sets you apart, why this program is right for you, copy of your resume, 3 letters of recommendation, an English language proficiency exam in the form of the TOEFL or IELTS, and also a copy of your GRE scores sent through the official platform, and I think as old as 2 years. Our next application deadline for the fall semester is coming up on February 1st, so it's coming up kind of quickly, but you will receive your admissions notification usually by mid-March.
Okay, I'm just trying to add a few comments here.
Please.
First, GRE is required, so you got to take it. We're not looking for perfect scores. Don't go and take it 3 times thinking that, taking it additional times, your score is going to be higher, because most of the time it doesn't work that way. You're wasting your money. Take it once. What we're looking for is really just scores above some minimum threshold. We use the GRE scores along with all the other sources of information that are part of your application to determine whether or not you can be successful in this program. That's how we're using it. We're not looking for students in the 95th percentile. We just want to be sure that you have the background, the aptitude, the training to be successful in this program. And so, as Holly mentioned, students are coming from a variety of different disciplines, majors. It is essential, though, that you have had an introductory statistics course or equivalent, and it's important that you've done well, that you did well in that course. That's much more important than the GRE, actually. For your essay, do not, you shouldn't be spending any more than an afternoon or a day on your essay. Don't make it long. Shorter is better than long. So you should never be longer than 2 pages. And just tell us, hey, these are my experiences. This is what I focused on as an undergraduate. These are my interests. And more importantly, these are my professional goals. This is where I want to be 5-10 years from now. And the MSDA program is the program for me, because it's the program that's going to get me to where I want to be in 5 years. So it's really, really more autobiographical, putting together a history and a trajectory, a future trajectory, where you want to be and why this program is the right program for you. This is the program that will get you to your goals. Nothing more than that. Just clear, straightforward. Do not fret about this. Don't get anxious about it. Just sit down and write it in an afternoon. We're not looking for innovativeness. We're not looking for creativity. We're looking for people who are mature and serious about where they want to go professionally, and that will be focused, serious, mature students in this program. That's what it's about.
Yeah, thank you, David, for those insights, and especially just highlighting the fact that the admissions review process really is holistic. We get questions all the time about what that actually means in layman's terms. What it means is that there's not going to be one single part of your application that automatically denies you or automatically admits you. It's really taken as each part of your application as a whole. And obviously the GRE is just one metric, so not looking for perfection in any of these components of your application, really just authenticity and a true kind of motivation and a clear proof and kind of proof in the pudding that you can be successful in graduate level work. We do go a little bit more into what our TOEFL minimum IELTS scores are, which are kind of also another important metric that really more so is an assurance that you will not have English language as a barrier in your learning. So there is a minimum TOEFL and IELTS score listed here on this slide. It's also available on our Graduate Finder page. So it is available in a number of different areas. You might not see it in the application, but if you are looking at Brown at this point, you might see that Brown actually has a minimum score that is a little lower than this. The program has a higher one based on the nature of the curriculum. It is more discussion based, so your English language proficiency needs to be in this range to be able to be a successful graduate student here. As mentioned, your application fee is waived for attendance of the session. You won't see that until you start an application. And then following, all the other prompts regarding the GRE, that cannot be waived. So you would need to submit a score. If you haven't taken the test already, you need to take the test and submit your score. Official transcripts, including international transcript evaluations, are only required upon enrollment. So what that looks like is that you will not need to do a course-by-course evaluation through WES, ECE, or TEC if you're an international student. You will just need to submit your unofficial transcripts in English. So I just want to pause here to see if there's any questions. There was one in the Q&A, but I think Carrie took care of it. Yes. Okay. And then for the standardized testing here are our following school codes. So when you're submitting those either through the GRE platform or otherwise, you're going to be using our school code here, 3094, and a list of our prerequisite courses that are also listed on the Graduate Finder page. So just those three that David had mentioned previously. And then also, based on your submission in the application, it'll automatically tell you if you need to submit the TOEFL or the IELTS. Typically, this is how it goes. You are going to be answering what your native language is, and then you're going to be submitting the language of instruction for the degree that you received as an undergraduate. If you received your degree in America, but you're an international student, then you're automatically waived because you received your degree in a country that spoke English. So that is an automatic waive. But if you, depending on your answers, there are a list of countries that are exempt from the TOEFL and IELTS because English is one of their primary languages. But beyond that small list, if you're prompted in the application to submit the TOEFL or IELTS, then you would be required to, and there is no waiver process for that if you're answering those questions authentically. Beyond that, this is our personal statement. So, as David mentioned, 600 to 1,000 words is a pretty, 1 to 2 page kind of essay. It's nothing that is really more so like a novel about your life. It's really a piece of work that is only in your own words. It's in lieu of an interview. It's in lieu of kind of meeting you face to face. So obviously we want to know a little bit about your personhood, know a little bit about your journey becoming a graduate student, how you think that you'll be successful in the program, why the program is the right fit for you. And we get a lot of questions too, especially because we have a population of people that survived COVID, that have gone through a couple of tough years. There is opportunities in the application to talk about some academic context, like health issues or gaps in your record that might be more appropriate to talk about those contexts. In your personal statement, we don't want to see you going into those kind of long-winded stories, more so really talking about your professional goals, how the program is going to align with that, and why you think that you'll be successful. there's also other parts of the application that you can talk a little bit about your cultural background or what you think that you can bring to a cohort. So I would recommend reading the application really from start to finish and identifying those areas where you can add in context if you think that it would help your application. So obviously, without any sort of notice of why there's a gap in your resume or why there is maybe some lower grades at the beginning of your academic career, it would help the admissions committee to have that context to also look at the kind of trending of your grades, the trending of your academic record as you were closer to graduating. So with that said, obviously there's not a perfect applicant, there's not a perfect application, but typically, we have a prompt here that kind of gives you the boundaries, the kind of guide of what they're looking for in that personal statement. And as David mentioned, maybe shorter is better. So maybe on the 600 word end. As far as letters of recommendation go, typically our cohorts are usually students right out of undergraduate, which is great. A lot of their recommendations are typically going to come from professors, people that they worked with research, so mostly from academia, but sometimes some applicants are coming in with a little bit of work experience, and that might be a more appropriate recommender based on when you graduated or maybe depending on the job that you did. I'll say our recruitment team here at the Masters and Professional Programs Division, we are hosting a application workshop that talks a little bit about asking for recommenders, who to go to, what looks better. But I'll say from a program specific side, 3 letters of recommendation are required, at least 2 from an academia source, and 1 can be professional. But of course, if it's a strong recommendation, it's a stronger recommendation. Definitely choose people that know you well, that can speak highly of your work, who have worked with you for more than just a few months, and who can speak more than just saying, yes, they contributed on this project, but then I kind of never heard from them again. So with that said, we get those people with 4.0 GPAs and having kind of neutral letters, and that's just, we're looking for something stronger than that. But we're looking for recommenders who you've collaborated with and that can really speak to the strength of you as a potential graduate student. Anything that you two want to mention here? So beyond that, that's really the nuts and bolts of what it's like to apply to this program. And I would love if anyone did have questions at this time to please submit them. Otherwise, we can put our emails in the chat. I'll put mine as well. We do offer advising sessions through our team and also office hours. So we can continue this conversation if you have any questions about your application particularly. And also, I know we didn't have a current student for this session, but if you're interested in speaking to some current students or want to get a little bit more insight into what life is like at Brown as a master's student, we can definitely connect you with some further resources. So
Thank you, Holly. Just a few additional comments. So first
yeah.
off, I really encourage you to look at the newsletters. The newsletters, every newsletter features usually about 3 of our recent graduates who are out working in industry. And so the newsletters will give you a very good idea of what our students are doing and what their experiences were like in the program and how they found what they learned in the program to be important factors in preparing them for the work that they're currently engaged in. So really, really take a look at the newsletters to get an idea of what the program's like and what our graduates are doing. The other thing is, please feel free to reach out to Carrie or myself. We're always happy to talk to students or applicants one-on-one on the telephone or via Zoom. So, or if you're in Providence, stop by and we're happy to meet with you in person. So please feel free to reach out to either of us, and we're always happy to talk to interested applicants. So.
Yes, thank you both. I put all 3 of our emails in the chat, so please feel free to use them. And yeah, thank you all for joining and for your time today. So if there's no questions, we can close this up early, but thank you all for joining and hope you have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Look
Take care.
forward to
Bye.
seeing your applications.